At Sloane's 9th birthday, my dad handed her a stick and said, "You're not worth more." Quinn laughed, and Mom stayed silent. I told him, "All right, keep it up." A week later, his debts came due, and the bank wasn't calling me. I'd always known Dad was self-centered, but this moment felt different. Sloane had been excited for weeks, making a wish list including a bike, drawing supplies, and maybe a new playhouse. Blair and I planned a big party, inviting family and friends. Decorations were up, desserts ready, and Sloane was glowing. Then my parents arrived, late, as usual. Dad strutted in arrogantly, Mom trailing behind. He carried no gift bag or wrapped present, just a rough, broken stick. Sloane looked confused. "What is this?" Dad shoved the stick toward her. "Your birthday surprise," he said with a smirk. The room went quiet, then nervous chuckles rippled through. Quinn and her partner exchanged amused looks. Mom let out a quiet, strange laugh. Sloane hesitated but took the stick carefully. "I don't understand," she whispered. Dad clapped his hands loudly. "Good gifts are only for the other grandchildren," he declared, then laughed loudly like it was a great joke. Quinn chuckled, her partner smiled. Some guests laughed politely, unaware of the real meaning. Sloane's face fell. She looked at me and Blair softly. "Why is Grandpa acting like this?" Blair comforted her silently, gritting her teeth as she often did to stay calm. I wasn't holding back. I turned to Dad quietly. "What's wrong with you?" He shrugged, unconcerned. "You're not worth my respect, Grayson. Why waste money on your kid?" The laughter died instantly. People shifted uncomfortably, realizing the cruelty. I felt a surge of anger from years of his small cruelties, favoritism, and control. But instead of exploding, I chose a different response. I smiled, stood, crossed the room, and did something that wiped Dad's smugness for the first time. I took a knife. The room went silent, not scared, but tense, as if something was about to happen. I cut 2 perfect slices of the birthday cake, one for Sloane, one for Blair, and faced Dad. "You're not welcome here anymore," I said softly. A heavy, chilling silence fell over the room. Nobody spoke, not Dad, not Mom, not Quinn, not any guests. Dad sat with arms crossed, his smile fading as no one supported him. Mom stared at her lap. Quinn avoided my eyes. The guests shuffled uneasily, unsure where to stand. Sloane sat beside Blair, nervously poking at her cake. She wasn't crying but wasn't happy either. That hurt me deeply. Finally, Dad sighed. "Are you serious, Grayson?" "Over a joke." I kept calm. "You humiliated my daughter on her birthday." "It wasn't a joke," he snapped. "Oh, come on. She's 10. She'll forget soon." Sloane looked up. "No, I won't." Dad's face flickered with doubt for a moment before masking it. "This family's gone soft," he grumbled. "That was my breaking point." I stood to leave. He laughed loudly. "You're kicking out your own dad? Just because I didn't spend money on your brat." Blair stood too. "Yes, go." The tension was unbearable. Mom finally looked up, biting her lip, seeming ready to speak but staying silent. Quinn scoffed. "Oh please, Dad was just..." I cut her off. "You think that's okay? That he treats Sloane like trash but spoils your kids?" She shrugged. "Maybe if you weren't so..." I interrupted. "I'm done pretending this is normal. Dad never valued me, and that's fine. But I won't let Sloane feel worthless. This ends now." Dad shook his head and leaned back. "What a pity act you're putting on." I stepped closer. "Pity act? You came to my daughter's birthday and gave her a stupid stick while laughing about only giving gifts to Quinn's kids? That's not a joke. That's being selfish and bitter." For once, he had no answer. He just stood silent, fists clenched. I turned to Mom. "And you? Are you just going to watch this happen?" She hesitated, then softly said, "I didn't think he'd go that far." That changed everything. Dad glared at her. "What did you say?" She straightened. "I knew he favored Quinn's kids, but I didn't know it was this bad." Dad stared as if she spoke another language. "Don't start." But she continued, Finnick, that wasn't funny. It was cruel. Quinn gasped. Mom, we should leave. Dad laughed again, empty now. You're really taking his side. Mom neither agreed nor disagreed. She grabbed her bag and avoided his gaze. For the first time ever, I saw my dad completely lost for words. And that was just the beginning. I didn't give him a chance to argue. Both of you out now. Mom didn't protest. She gave Sloane one last look, kind of sad, then walked toward the door. Dad hung back, scanning the room like he expected someone to stand up for him. When nobody did, his face twisted into a sneer. You're pathetic, Grayson, he said, sounding weak. I cut in coldly, leave. He laughed flatly and shook his head. Fine. But don't come crying when you realize you can't erase me from your life. I opened the door. Mom walked out first without saying a word. Dad followed, but right before he left, he looked at Quinn and asked, You coming? Quinn hesitated. She glanced at me, then my wife, then at Sloane holding that dumb stick like she still didn't understand. Then she sighed and stood up. Yeah, I'm coming. She grabbed her husband's arm and they both left with my parents. The door shut behind them. For a moment, nobody moved. The guests just sat there, unsure what to do next. There was nothing to say, nothing to fix. Then Sloane broke down. She started crying and buried her face in Blair's stomach. Blair gently stroked her back and whispered soothing words. I knelt down and placed a hand on Sloane's arm. Sweetie, I said softly, it's okay. She cried harder. Why does Grandpa hate me? Blair closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I clenched my fists but kept calm. He doesn't hate you. He just doesn't know how to be kind. But he's nice to Quinn's kids, she sniffled. I swallowed hard. I know, sweetie. It's not fair. But listen, we love you so much. You don't need him to be happy. She wiped her nose on her sleeve. But my party's ruined, she said. And that hurt the most because she was right. The room felt heavy. No one laughed or cheered. Guests fidgeted, whispering quick goodbyes to leave. The birthday that should have been amazing was a total mess. Blair and I tried to lift the mood, but the damage was done. The candles melted, the gifts felt useless. Sloane forced a smile and acted okay, but she wasn't. That's when I decided I wasn't done. I wouldn't let Dad walk away thinking he'd won, thinking he could shame my daughter and get away with it. No way. I'd make him regret it. If he liked being mean, fine. I'd play his game, but smarter. Payback was coming, and he wouldn't see it coming. Dad always wanted to be the boss. He controlled Mom, my sister, and tried to control me too. But one thing he never controlled was my business. I built it from nothing, working long hours, making tough choices, fighting every obstacle. When it finally grew, Dad acted like he helped. He never gave money, advice, or support. But once it succeeded, he strutted around like he owned it. He'd introduce me to people like I was his assistant, calling it our company, even though he did nothing. And worst of all, I let it slide for years, hoping if I made him feel important, he'd finally care. That was stupid. After Sloane's birthday, I stopped ignoring it. The next day, I called my lawyer and told him to cut Dad out for good. My lawyer hesitated. Are you sure your dad isn't officially involved? He acts like he's not. I said, make it official. That was it. I shut Dad out forever. At first, he didn't get it, probably waiting for me to beg him. But when his calls to my office went unanswered, and his name disappeared from all company documents, he realized something was wrong. Then the chaos began. He stormed into my office, pushing past my assistant like he owned the place. Grayson, he snapped, what's going on? I leaned back, calm as ever. No idea what you mean. He was already red. I called the bank, they won't tell me anything. I called your board, they won't include me. What game are you playing? I shrugged. You said I didn't deserve your respect, so why would you get involved? He clenched his teeth. I built this with you. I laughed. No, I built this. You just like pretending. Watch your mouth. I warned him, you're in my space, and I owe you nothing. For once, Dad looked lost. I saw it in his eyes. He'd spent years acting like the boss, bragging about the company and power. Now it was all gone. He had nothing. And the best part? He caused it himself. He stepped closer, trying to grab control. You think you can just ditch me? I already did. His breath got heavy. He glared like he wanted to fight or yell, but he had no power left. I could see his pride breaking. You'll ruin this, he spat, voice shaking with anger. You need me. I smiled. No, Dad. I never did. Then I pressed the security button. 2 big guards came in right away. Dad looked at them and looked ridiculous, an old man trying to boss people around where he had no control. Are you kidding me? He growled. I nodded. You think you can just come in and give orders? This isn't your place. You have no power here. Never did, he muttered, shaking his head. But I saw his hands clench. He was falling apart. You think you're invincible, he muttered to himself. But remember, son, I'm still your dad. You can't just erase me because you're mad. I smiled. I already did. And honestly, it feels great. The guards stepped forward. For a moment, I thought he might fight, but then, the office door swung open and Mom walked in. I wasn't expecting her. We hadn't talked since the party, and I didn't ask her to come. But there she was, standing in the doorway, looking at both of us with a face I couldn't read. Declan, she said quietly to Dad. Come with me. Dad looked at her, surprised and confused. Why are you here? She took a breath and looked at me. Grayson, can we talk alone? I hesitated, then told the guards to leave. It was just the 3 of us now. Mom, whatever you're going to say, I started. She raised her hand. I know you're upset, she said. And I don't blame you. What your dad did was awful. I should have stopped him long ago. Dad whipped his head around. Lena, what is this nonsense? She ignored him. But you need to hear me out. I crossed my arms. Go ahead. She paused, then said something I never expected. I'm done. I blinked, surprised. Done with what? I asked. She swallowed hard. This life I've been stuck in for years. My dad's face went pale. What do you mean? He asked. She looked right at him, and for the first time, I saw real sympathy in her eyes. Declan, I've kept quiet my whole life, watching you favor some of us, and tearing down Grayson because you can't accept he's better than you. My dad was speechless. Then she looked at me again. I should have left a long time ago, but I was scared of losing home, safety, and a fresh start. She took a deep breath. But now I'm not scared. I stared at her, trying to understand. Are you really leaving him? I asked carefully. She nodded her head. If you support me. My dad slammed his hand on my desk. Have you lost your mind? She flinched but stood her ground. No, Declan. I finally see things clearly. He turned to me, angry. This is your fault. You're turning her against me. I leaned back, arms crossed. No, Dad. You did that all by yourself. My dad looked helpless. It was almost satisfying. He was shaking, his face red with anger and frustration. He looked between my mom and me like he couldn't believe it. Are you serious? He whispered. You're really leaving me? Mom nodded, calm and steady. Yes, Declan. I am. His breathing got heavy. You're making a mistake. You think he'll take care of you? That Grayson will save you. He laughed bitterly. Wake up, Lena. If you leave me, you'll have nothing. I tilted my head. Are you sure about that? He sneered. What do you mean? I leaned forward, tapping the desk. You never managed the money, Dad. And you never cared, Mom. You just shouted orders and acted like everything belonged to you. He looked at Mom, Mika. She looked back at me, then at him, and dropped a bombshell. I've already spoken to the lawyers. Everything in my name stays with me, half the house, half the accounts. And after everything I've been through, I'm fighting for even more. My dad's jaw dropped, but he said nothing. I smiled. Oh, and since you loved acting like my company was yours, I had my lawyer's check. Turns out, you took loans in your name, hoping I'd pay them with business money. He gasped. Guess who the bank will chase if those loans aren't paid? I said. It won't be me, it'll be you. He stared, finally realizing how deep he was in trouble. You're bluffing, he whispered. I leaned back. See for yourself. He turned to Mom. Mika, you can't do this to me. She looked at him, and for the first time, I saw no fear in her eyes, only confidence. You brought this on yourself, Nolan. He stepped back, grabbing the desk for support. You selfish. I cut him off. No, Dad. That's you. You had a family, but instead of caring, you played favorites. You had a son who built something amazing, and instead of being proud, you tried to steal his credit. You had a wife who stood by you for years, and instead of appreciating her, you treated her like nothing. I shook my head. You threw it all away, Dad. And no one else to blame. Everything went quiet. For once, my dad had nothing to say. No tricks, no excuses, he lost. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Collins. Harlow's feeling better. We got her ice cream. She's smiling now. I breathed out, feeling the stress leave. That's what mattered. Harlow was safe, happy, away from my dad's harm. I looked back at him. You need to leave. He stared, eyes full of something I couldn't place. Maybe sadness, anger, or just the weight of losing control. Then he turned and walked out. Mom stayed a moment, looking at me with what felt like gratitude. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For showing me I still have a voice. Then she left too. And just like that, my dad was out of my life. I won't lie, it felt good. It felt right. I didn't want revenge. I did it to protect my daughter, to make sure she never felt worthless or unwanted again. As I left my office to go home to my family, I knew one thing for sure. My dad would never hurt us again.